This is part 6 of the Mid-Atlantic section. Chesapeake Bay. Chesapeake Bay, the largest estuary in North America, is shared by Maryland, Virginia, and Delaware. The bay stretches almost 200 miles from the Susquehanna River to the Atlantic Ocean and ranges from 4 miles wide to 30 miles wide. The beautiful bay was once the valley of the Susquehanna River, which helps explain why the bay is surprisingly shallow. Most of it is less than 6 feet deep. Nonetheless, the Chesapeake Bay was the site of the American Revolution's critical naval battle of the Chesapeake in 1781. It was also the site of the standstill Civil War battle between the ironclads CSS Virginia and USS Monitor. Recent conservation and restoration efforts have benefited Chesapeake Bay. The devastating pollution of the bay's waters has remained a threat since the 1970s, but no longer greatly detracts from its natural beauty. The Bay Area today is a feast of art exhibitions, waterfront festivals, regattas and races, sport fishing contests, and boat shows. Skipjacks were introduced to the Chesapeake in the late 19th century to dredge for oysters. Today, some of those versatile ocean vessels provide tours of the bay. There's a picture of the ship that it was talking about. National Mall. The National Mall in Washington, D.C. is one of the world's greatest public places. Its 146 acres of renowned monuments, impressive institutions, and grand government offices draw visitors from all across the country and around the world. By strict definition, the mall means the Greens word and adjacent buildings from the Washington Monument of the U.S. Capitol. When you visit, however, there's no need to stick to this definition. Instead, enjoy how the mall connects the White House situated to the north, the Potomac River, National World War II Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial to the west, the Jefferson Memorial, Franklin D. Roosevelt Memorial, and Tidal Basin to the south, and the U.S. Capitol to the east. Any one of the dozens of the mall's world-class museums or memorials is worth its own exploration. Among other attractions, the mall includes the National Archives, the U.S. Botanic Garden, the U.S. Holocaust Museum, the National Gallery of Art, the Korean War and Vietnam Veterans Memorials, Constitution Gardens, the Reflecting Pool. The mall also encompasses the riches of the Smithsonian Institution, which gives visitors a tour of national treasures. The Smithsonian has a number of museums on the National Mall alone. It's so big that the original castle, built in 1855, is now merely its office and visitor information center. The National World War II Memorial honors the 16 million who served in the U.S. Armed Forces during World War II and the more than 400,000 who died. I went to this memorial. It's very scary is not the right word. It's just like haunting is the right word. But it's very pretty. And I also have been to this National Mall, and it's also very cool. Reminds you a lot of the civil rights stuff that went on there. U.S. Capitol. The U.S. Capitol is an icon of 19th century neoclassical architecture that houses the country's legislative branches and stands as a symbol of the United States. The building's cornerstone was laid on September 18, 1793, and has been burnt, rebuilt, expanded, and restored since then. I got to see that part of the building. It was really cool. When Congress moved from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. in 1800, only the north wing of the building was complete. Then in 1814, British troops torched the building during the War of 1812, but a serendipitous downpour spared its complete destruction. The chambers of the Senate and House, as well as those for Supreme Court, were ready for use by 1819. By 1850, an expansion was necessary to accommodate the growing legislature. The wings were lengthened, and the current stately cast-iron dome replaced the rickety wood and copper dome. The U.S. Capitol's cast-iron dome was designed by architect Thomas U. Walter and constructed from 1855 to 1866. The Statue of Freedom was placed atop the dome in 1863. And that is a very cool building if you get to go inside. The White House. The White House is most amazing for its open-door policy. It is the only residence of a head of state in the world that's open to the public free of charge. And although visitors can't tour all 132 rooms, they can see some of the more famous ones, including the East, Blue, Green, and Red rooms. Public tours of the White House are available for groups of 10 or more. However, requests must be submitted through your member of Congress 6 months in advance. I did not know that. Tours typically convene in President's Park South, the 52-acre park better known as the Eclipse. The Eclipse is home to several monuments and memorials, as well as events such as the famed Easter egg roll in the spring and the lighting of the National Christmas tree in December. That is also a very cool building to visit. It's so pretty. Lincoln Memorial. The Lincoln Memorial leads visitors to contemplate what Lincoln accomplished and what he stood for. No poet, including Walt Whitman, and no biographer, including Carl Sandburg, has expressed this as well as Lincoln himself in his addresses at his second inauguration and at Gettysburg. Both speeches are carved into the walls of the memorial. Building the Lincoln Memorial was a prolonged process. Congress formed the Lincoln Monument Association in 1867. The original design was for a 12-foot statue of Lincoln surrounded by 6 large equestrian and 31 pedestal statues. But a lack of funding derailed the initial project, and construction on the current memorial didn't begin until Lincoln's birthday in 1914. It was completed in 1922. The Lincoln Memorial is unlike any other structure on the National Mall. The choice of a neoclassical Greek rather than a Roman design stirred dismay. The base covers roughly the same area as a football field. The statue measures 19 feet wide by 19 feet tall. Its size was sharply increased when sculptor Daniel Chester French realized it would be overwhelmed by the memorial's building size. The building has 36 Doric columns, one for each state during Lincoln's presidency. The memorial has attracted crowds since its creation and has hosted national gatherings including Marian Anderson's 1939 Easter Sunday concert, an early turning point in the civil rights movement, and Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech culminating the historic March on Washington for Civil Rights in 1963. The Lincoln Memorial has come to symbolize freedom, democracy, national unity, and social justice. A fun fact that this book did not talk about, in front of this memorial, you can actually stand in footprints where they say that Martin Luther King Jr. stood to give his I Have a Dream speech. I don't know if that's necessarily true. It's probably true. Well, the feet are actually there. I don't know if that's exactly the spot where he stood. But there's also a rumor that in Lincoln's hair, you can't see it here, but because of the war, they say that you can see, oh yeah, you can see it. There's like this little tuft here, that they say is the nose of General Lee, who was Lincoln's biggest rival in that war, and I think that's pretty cool too.